After losing Amy Pond and Rory Williams, the 11th Doctor has retired to Victorian England, where Strax, Jenny Flint, and Vastra assume his responsibilities in guarding the universe while watching over him in his self-imposed exile. The Doctor eventually meets Clara Oswald, and takes a liking to the young barmaid who leads a double life as a governess. At the same time, a sinister plot is unfolding. Snowmen are randomly appearing around London, growing in size and power. All they need to take over the world is some human DNA in ice crystal form, and the frozen body of a drowned governess can give them just that. Welcome, friends and companions. How are you today? Sci-fi and fantasy fans and all sorts of fans meet on this channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music, and sport, and a special place on this channel for Doctor Who. Ooh, ooh, something like that. My most beloved sci-fi series, Doctor Who. This channel has multiple names. Most of the time, this channel is called Random Entertainment Channel. Why random? Random because we'll discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies and series, books and music, except for politics and religion. These are not entertainment. We want to have jokes, laughter, and humor. So no politics are discussed here, and no religion is discussed here. One place. Random because we broadcast on non-fixed times, actually many different times. The reason behind this is because I want to meet so much people as possible. Because different time zones, different countries, different times, and meet so much people as possible. I want to make friends and network. So that's the reason why I broadcast on many different times. So you need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. Enigmatic, mysterious, I know, random, shuffle, etc., etc. Random also because we have no guests or different guests. It depends who wants to join me in the live stream or panel. If you want to join me in the live stream, feel free to contact me via a comment. Put a comment on one of the videos, or you can meet me on the Discord server of the Random Entertainment channel. So, and we'll look what is possible. It is also possible to invite me for your channel for a live stream or panel. So feel free to invite me. In summary, you are invited. Feel free to invite me. Yes. So, Discord server is called Random Entertainment Channel. Tag Doctor Who on Discord and you find me very quick because I bump the server regularly. So, cheers, mate, and have lots of fun. This is your host, Enigmatic Joker. Today, we have an 11th Doctor story, The Snowman. First, some general info. The Snowman was a 2012 Christmas special of Doctor Who. The special officially introduced Jenna Louise Coleman as new companion Clara Oswald. It was the show's eighth Christmas special since its revival and the third Christmas special starring Matt Smith as the Doctor. Like the previous two specials, it took its name and some of its themes from a famous piece of winter-themed literature. Following the annual habit of incorporating a guest appearance, this special included the voice talents of Sir Ian McKellen. Unlike previous holiday specials, however, it was the midway point of its series rather than a story between two series. The special bridged the gap between the first and second parts of the seventh series, dealing with the fallout of the Angels Take Manhattan while setting up all the elements for the Bells of St. John onwards. Despite being placed in the midst of a series as it came after the first 5 episodes of Series 7, the production team does not count this as the sixth regular episode of the series, with the next episode, The Bells of St. John. being designated as the sixth episode. It notably included a number of significant production changes to the program as well. A brand new title sequence made by Peter Anderson Studio replaced the Framestore version that had been in place since the 11th hour, with modifications by Peter Anderson Studios as of Asylum of the Daleks. This change necessitated a new arrangement of the tune, which was done, like all previous official televised theme arrangements since 2005, by series composer Murray Gold. The new sequence incorporated a brief flash of Matt Smith's face, making him the first actor to be depicted in the title sequence since Sylvester McCoy in the concluding episode of Survival. Furthermore, a new console room made its debut. Two versions of Clara Oswald appeared in this episode. It also reintroduced and showed the origins of the Great Intelligence, an enemy last seen in the series battling the Second Doctor in 1968's The Web of Fear, and featured the return of recurring characters Madame Vastra, Jenny Flint, and Strax, previously introduced in A Good Man Goes to War. It further built upon aspects of these characters which had been explored between episodes. Strax is alive after being killed off, as established in the webcast The Battle of Demons Run 2 days later. And then his last name is also used, which had previously been used in an additional prequel minisode, The Great Detective. So, my dear friends, this is some general info about this episode. We will now dive into the plot. So, a spoiler alert. If you haven't watched or listened to this story yet, I highly recommend you to do that. Otherwise, you can decide for yourself to listen further to this. Um, to this plot. Yeah, are you ready? So let's go. It is winter in 1842. Children are playing outside. Standing away from the others is a little boy, building a snowman. A woman asks him if he'd like to play with the other children, but he says that he doesn't need anyone else. The woman tells the man he's always so alone and that it's unhealthy. As they leave, he says that he doesn't want to talk to them because they are silly. To his surprise, the snowman he is building repeats this. He runs away as it tells him not to believe anyone else. He starts to walk back to it, and it tells him that it can help him. He asks it, how? 50 years later, Walter Simeon is overseeing men as they carefully scrape snow from snowmen into glass jars. The jars are loaded into a carriage where they are driven to Walter Simeon's Institute. Dr. Simeon carries one of the jars up to a large glass sphere filled with snow. He tells it that the last of her rivals have been sampled. The same voice from the snowman speaks from within the sphere, saying a swarm is approaching and that as humanity celebrates, it will end. It asks if the final piece is ready, and Simeon says it's in hand. The force asks how he will keep his secrets from getting out from the men who helped him. Simeon says it's been taken care of, as he promised to feed them. Back at the work site, one of the men says that he doesn't see any food. Simeon says he does, and as the men look around, snowmen rise up. Simeon coldly says, I promised to feed you, but I didn't say who to. At an inn called the Rose and Crown, a barmaid walks outside with a tray. She's surprised to see a snowman that wasn't there before. She asks the 11th Doctor, who was walking past, if he built it. The doctor says he didn't and walks away but stops when she tells him that it just appeared out of nowhere. He walks back and circles the snowman, inspecting it. He says he wonders if the snow can remember how to build a snowman, which the maid thinks is silly. She makes the doctor smile. He asks her what her name is. She says it is Clara, which he says is a nice name. He walks away, leaving her somewhat annoyed in the alley with the snowman, and Clara sees the doctor leave in a carriage and runs after it, managing to climb onto it. In the doctor's carriage, he talks to Vostra through a phone built into the roof. He tells her about the odd snow, making her wonder if his curiosity has been piqued. He firmly denies this, even stating that he does not make an impact on anyone anymore. Hence, Clara will have no reason to remember him. However, Vastra counters that it all starts with the same two words. The doctor asks what two words she means. At that very moment, Clara opens a hatch on the roof and pops her head inside. Shocking the doctor, she asks, Doctor who? Ah, that same night, Simeon is walking through town and is confronted by Jenny and a veiled Vastra. Simeon doesn't take their presence as a threat and instead taunts them. He says that Dr. Doyle has based his Sherlock Holmes stories on a great detective and her assistant with some alterations. He walks over to Vastra and unveils her, not even grimacing at her true face. Who would believe that the great detective is in fact a woman? Simeon then notices that Vassar and Jenny seem suspiciously intimate. Vassar takes offense, saying she and Jenny are married. Jenny then quips that Simeon isn't. He scoffs at this and leaves, assured they cannot stop him. However, Vassar says that there is one person who can, making Simeon slightly uneasy. Elsewhere, the doctor is examining snow outside his parked carriage. Locked inside is Clara, furiously demanding to be let out. Thinking, the doctor asks Strax what he would look for next after finding something new in the world that he's never seen before. Strax answers, a grenade, which does not amuse the doctor. They open the door of the carriage and explain to Clara that they'll be erasing her memory of them. Strax mistakenly calls Clara a male, which the doctor cynically jokes is because Sontarans had trouble remembering there's more than one gender. He orders Strax to get a memory worm to erase Clara's memory. Waiting, the doctor sees Strax return without the worm, making him realize he forgot to wear the protective gauntlets. It erased the last hour of Strax's memory, with the worm now under the carriage. The doctor has Strax retrieve it. However, he forgot to wear the gauntlets again and now thinks he's been run over. Highly amused, Clara passes the gauntlets to the doctor, who shoves the memory worm into a jar. Clara questions him about the snowman, and one suddenly arises out of the snow. The doctor asks Clara if she was thinking about it, which she admits to. Several more arise from the snow and begin snarling them at them. The doctor explains that the snow is sentient and is mirroring the thoughts of people around it. He orders Clara to picture them melting, and she does so. Clara points out that he can't erase her memory now, as it would make her forget how to defend herself. The doctor warns her not to follow him and tells her to forget him. He sends her away in Strax's carriages, but Clara sneaks off. Following the doctor, Clara sees him pull a ladder out of nowhere in the park and climb up it. And after letting the doctor get a few minutes ahead to avoid him noticing her, Clara mimics his actions and pulls the ladder down. She climbs up to a platform which should be easily seen by people passing by. She waves and says hello to people, but they don't notice her. She continues onward, climbing a hidden staircase in the sky, reaching up into the clouds. Clara then sees the TARDIS. She knocks on the door and hides at the side of the TARDIS just as the doctor pops his head out. As the doctor looks around the sides of the TARDIS, Clara sneaks down the stairs. The doctor hears her footsteps and picks up a piece of cloth that dropped from her dress, which he then smells. He sees her running down the same staircase which led up to the cloud, but dismisses her, still determined to stay out what is happening on Earth. The next day, Christmas Eve, Clara heads for the second job as governess to Franny and Digby Latimer, children of the widowed Captain Latimer, under the alias Miss Montague, and speaks in a posh accent. Captain Latimer explains that he is having trouble connecting with his children and hopes that Miss Montague can get through them. Clara greets the children and at their request performs her secret voice, which is her real one. The children express how much they prefer her over their last governess, who drowned in their pond last year. Simeon pays an unexpected visit to the Latimer home, showing interest in the pond. This disturbs Clara, who thinks the doctor may be of some use. Clara goes back to the park, but can't get the ladder down, forcing her to go up to the doctor. This draws the attention of passerby, who wonders if she's gone mad. Jenny happens upon the scene, shushing Clara. When Clara protests, Jenny asks Doctor Who? To show she knows the doctor. Upon meeting Vastra, Clara is slightly disturbed at the sight of her, but remains calm. Vastra explains what she is drinking isn't red wine, and that Clara had better be truthful. Jenny explains that Vastra will ask questions and Clara must answer them with one word only. Vastra believes the truth can be said in one word, while lies are said with a string of them. Though their meeting, Vastra tells Clara that the doctor once saved many lives. Then he suffered a loss so great he was forced to retire. Seeing Clara has presented a chance to reawaken the doctor's former sense of adventure, Vastra gives Clara a test. She must give her message to pass on to Doctor, warning him of the danger the snow poses and explaining why he should help her. But she must do it in one word. In his darkened TARDIS, the Doctor is reading a book while wearing Amy's reading glasses. He receives a call from Vastra, who explains that Clara came to her and was giving the one word test. Annoyed, the Doctor asks Vastra what Clara said. She replies, Pound. The Doctor takes off his glasses and stares at them for a moment, finally deciding to investigate what is happening. Dressing in an outfit he previously wore in his fourth incarnation, the Doctor goes to Dr. Simeon's institute, pretending to be Sherlock Holmes. Reading Simeon, the Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to lock the doors of Simeon's office to prevent interruption. The Doctor smacks the large glass sphere with his walking stick, prompting it to speak to him. It calls itself the Intelligence. Pondering what it and Simeon have planned, the Doctor sees a newspaper article about a governess who drowned in a pond. He realizes why Clara used that word to warn him of the danger. Simeon's servants manage to break down the doors, distracting him long enough for the Doctor to discreetly make his exit. The Doctor arrives at the Latimer home and examines the pond where the woman drowns. According to the scan, there is something in the ice. Strax arrives, saying Vastra sent him in case the Doctor needs assistance with his investigation. The Doctor claims he's not investigating, but Strax is not convinced. The Doctor sends him away just as he notices Clara waving at him through a window and gesturing for him to come up. The Doctor unintentionally signals that he will. After catching this, he scolds himself. As the Doctor walks away, something starts forming in the ice under the pond. Clara is telling Franny and Digby a bedtime story about the Doctor, claiming that all he ever does all day is keep children from having bad dreams. However, Franny pokes a hole in her story, saying that she's been having bad dreams about their previous governess. Clara quickly says that the Doctor has been on vacation and has just come back. The door opens and she begins to introduce the Doctor only to see the reincarnation of the previous governess to the Latimer family, created from her genetic sample The ice governess. The governess attacks them, intending to discipline the children as she believes they have been very naughty. Clara quickly locks them in a playroom for safety. The ice governess breaks in and all seems lost until a puppet, operated by the doctor, destroys her with a sonic. Meanwhile, Simeon arrives outside, activating a device that causes snow to fall in the yard. Back inside, the doctor notices a mirror and admires his bow tie. Clara, realizing that the temperature of the room has dropped, says, "It's cooler." The doctor thinks she is complimenting his bow tie and replies, "Bow ties are cool." The ice governess begins to reform, unfortunately having learned not to melt. The doctor, Clara, and the children escape downstairs, meeting Captain Latimer. The doctor hastily explains his presence in the house, proclaiming that he is Clara's gentleman friend, and they have been upstairs kissing. Vastra, Strax, and Ginny arrive, trapping the ice governess behind a force field. Strax then says Captain Latimer's office is a strategic place to make their stand, and everyone hurries inside. After explaining Simeon's plan, which is to use the ice governess as a template to evolve the snowmen into an army of ice for Simeon to conquer Earth with, the doctor orders everyone to stay in Latimer's office. However, Clara disobeys and kisses him in the hallway. After recovering from the surprise, the doctor confronts Simeon at the front door. Simeon warns the doctor they have 5 minutes to give him the ice governess. The doctor seizes an umbrella and uses his sonic screwdriver to deactivate the force field that trapped the ice governess. He and Clara sprint up the stairs towards the roof. At one point, Clara grabs the doctor's hand and takes the lead, which the doctor is unused to since he is usually the one who does the hand grabbing. Um, the ice governess follows. Clara quickly realizes why the doctor led them up to the roof and uses the umbrella he took from downstairs to pull down the ladder that leads up to the spiral staircase. The wind has moved the cloud the TARDIS was parked on. They run up the staircase with the ice governess in pursuit. The doctor explains that they are drawing the ice governess away from the power that is constantly reviving her. Once far enough away, they can destroy the creature and lock her remains away in a container that the signal can't get through. After reaching Doctor's Cloud, the Doctor shows Clara the inside of the TARDIS, which has changed since Amy and Rory left. He expects Clara to say that it's bigger on the inside like everyone else, but instead she says it's smaller on the outside, which the Doctor notes is a first. Clara then asks if there is kitchen on board, mentioning that she likes making souffles, a remark which cuts Doctor's intention. Clara then comments that the Doctor is nearly a foot taller than her, and that he could have reached the ladder without an umbrella. He took it so she could come with him. She asks him why, and he replies, "I never know why. I only know who." The Doctor then gives Clara a key to the TARDIS, having decided to take her with him. However, just after taking the key, Clara is grabbed by the ice governess. Clara and the ice governess topple off the cloud onto the lawn below. The ice governess is shattered, and Clara critically injured. The Doctor uses a TARDIS to get Clara's body into Latimer's office, where Strax uses alien technology to revive her. However, Clara's injuries are too severe, leaving her in a dying state. The Doctor asks Clara if she would travel with him, and she agrees. He then storms out to face Simeon and his snowmen, brandishing a box which he claims contains the ice governess' shattered remains. He tells Simeon he'd see him at the office, using the TARDIS to take himself and Vastra to Simeon's institute. Vastra wonders if the Doctor is making a bargain with the universe, and the Doctor says that the universe owes him for all the times he has saved it, hoping that if he saves the world, the universe will allow Clara to live. The Doctor and Vastra confront Simeon in his office, and the Doctor reveals that the giant snow globe is actually a reflection of Simeon himself. Simeon explains that the snow had spoken to him as a child when he was building a snowman, and the Doctor informs him that he had accidentally started putting all of his deepest, darkest thoughts and feelings into the snow. Although Simeon is shocked to learn that he was the reason snow globe was sentient, this show doesn't stop him from attempting to continue his plan. He grabs the box containing the ice governess remains from the Doctor. When he opens it, however, he finds the memory worm instead. It bites him, erasing all the memories of his adult life. The snow globe seems to die, but then comes back to life with the snow inside flying around furiously. Doctor is now perplexed as how this can be, as it is a reflection of Simeon's dark side. The snow globe explains that the dream outlives the dreamer, sapping Simeon with electricity. Without her memories, the worm erased, there is plenty of room for the entity. Simeon now its puppet rather than the other way around. After hurling Vastra aside, the possessed Simeon attacks the Doctor, but then pulls back in apparent pain as the snow in the globe turns to rain. Simeon perishes as the entity is defeated, and the Doctor says that all the snow at the Latimer house is mirroring the grief of the Latimers as Clara draws closer to death. Rushing back to the house, the Doctor learns that Clara won't make it and that she only has only moments left. He spends Clara's last moments by her side. Before passing away at midnight on Christmas Day, Clara murmurs words that he had heard once before. Run, you clever boy, and remember. Now, back in his state of grief and self-loathing, the Doctor attends Clara's funeral. Lester hands the Doctor a card for Simeon's Institute, which reveals the entity was the Great Intelligence. However, while the name rings a bell, the Doctor has trouble remembering when he met it before. He mutters the name to himself, hoping to remember. He then goes to Clara's grave. He's stunned when he reads her full name, Clara Oswin Oswald. The Doctor remembers that name from the woman he had met in the Dalek Asylum, who went by the name Oswin Oswald and also enjoyed making souffles. He realizes that he hadn't noticed the connection earlier, since he never saw Oswin Oswald's human face. But the two also have the same voice. This leaves the Doctor greatly confused. Someone has died twice in completely different lives in time and space. Elated, he realizes that there is another version of his new companion, that there is a chance of meeting her again. Eager at solving the mystery of the woman who has died twice and reuniting with Clara, the overjoyed Doctor runs off. Jenny wonders why the Doctor is suddenly so happy. Phosphor remarks that maybe the universe does make bargains after all. Over a century later, the cemetery has long ago ceased to be maintained. Tall weeds have taken over, and many of the gravestones are neglected. Clara's remains legible, but is well worn. Another Clara, identical in appearance to Clara Oswald and Oswin Oswald, walks through the graveyard ahead of her friend. As she nears Clara Oswald's gravestone, her friend begs her to leave because she thinks the graveyard is creepy. Standing above her doppelganger's corpse, Clara confidently dismisses her friend's phobia, asserting, I don't believe in ghosts. Back in TARDIS, the Doctor is now hell-bent on finding Clara. Flipping switches on the console, he yells, Clara! Oswin! Oswald! And pulls up a picture of Clara from 1892 on the TARDIS scanner. Then he exclaims, Watch me run! And that, my friends and companions, is the story The Snowman. I will name some cast members. The Doctor, the 11th Doctor, is played by Matt Smith. Clara Oswald is played by Jenna Louise Coleman. Captain Latimer is played by Tom Ward. And Dr. Simeon is played by Richard E. Grant. Jenny is played by Catherine Stewart. And Madame Vastra is played by Neve McIntosh. Strax is played by Dan Starkey. And Digby is played by Joseph Darcy Alden. Francesca is played by Ellie Darcy Alden. Alice is played by Liz White, and Uncle Josh is played by Jim Conway. Walter is played by Cameron Strafford, and Walter's mother is played by Annabelle Dowler. Bob Shilcott is played by Ben Addis, and Clara's friend is played by Sophie Miller-Sheen. The lead workwoman is played by Danielle Hyde, and the voice of the Great Intelligence is voiced by Ian McKellen. Last voice of the Ice Governess is played by Juliette Ketso. So, some world building in culture. There are references to Sherlock Holmes. Three things. Simeon suggests that Arthur Conan Doyle based Sherlock Holmes on Madame Vastra. Christopher A. Grant had previously played Holmes in the Encounters episode The Other Side. In 2002, he played Mycroft Holmes in the made-for-TV film Sherlock: Case of Evil, and Jack Stapleton in an adaptation of The Hound of the Baskervilles. Another thing is that at the time, Stephen Moffat was also overseeing Sherlock, with Matt Smith had previously auditioned for. In addition, the incidental music when the Doctor impersonates Holmes is similar to the Sherlock theme. A third thing is that Ian McKellen would later play Holmes in Mr. Holmes. Another thing is culture is that the phrase "winter is coming" is often mentioned. It had been popularized by Game of Thrones. Matt Smith would later play Daemon Targaryen in the prequel series House of the Dragon. Next thing is that the Doctor and Clara's outfit invoked Oliver Twist. Matt Smith compared his outfit to Artful Dodgers, while the production team based Clara's outfit on Nancy's. Some world building in communication technology. Vastra has a telephone that can call the phone in the Doctor's TARDIS. And some world building in the Doctor, 4 points. The Doctor pretends to be Sherlock Holmes. His deduction skills have become rusty in his isolation. Second thing, Doctor has kept Amy Pond's reading glasses and seems to be using them to read. The third thing is that the Doctor attempts to use a memory worm to erase Clara's memory. Fourth thing is that this Doctor seems to only vaguely remember the Great Intelligence. Some world-building individuals is that Strax was revived after the Battle of Demon's Run. Next thing, world-building locations, that the Doctor uses a tin with a map of the London Underground on it. And last thing in world building is with the influences is that Matt Smith based the Doctor's interactions with Strax on Blackadder and Baldric. Okay, some story notes. The episode had the working title The Snowmen. The second thing is that this episode had 4 prequels, the most of any episode up to this point. These are The Great Detective, Vastra Investigates, A Christmas Prequel, The Devil in the Smoke, An Adventure for the Great Detective, and The Battle of Demon's Run 2 days later, with the last of these actually not released until just prior to the broadcast of the Bells of St. John in late March 2013, and they were originally marketed as a prequel to that episode. It is the first televised episode to have a prose prequel. Yeah. A third thing is that this is the first full-length episode of the 11th Doctor era in which Amy Pond does not appear. A fourth thing is that starting its broadcast at 17:15, 5:15 p.m., this episode has the Earliest transmission time of Doctor Who television story, along with An Unearthly Child. That's the first Doctor story, the first one. And The Husbands of River Song, with 12th Doctor Peter Capaldi. Another thing is that the Doctor shows the Great Intelligence a tin with a map of the London Underground 1967 on it, calling it a key strategic weakness in metropolitan living. This is a reference to the story in which the intelligence last featured, the Web of Fear, which primarily took place in the underground. The story occurs in the intelligence past, thereby paving the way for the events of the Web of Fear. Web of Fear is a second Doctor story, Predicate Troughton. Another thing is that Cameron Strafford Walter is credited as young Walter in Radio Times. Next thing, to keep the return of great intelligence a surprise, Ian McKellen was credited voice of the Snowmen in Radio Times, and only as a voice of the great intelligence in the closing edits. Another thing is that, as is routine for Christmas specials, a coming soon trailer for the next series was shown at the end of the episode. This coming soon trailer features clips from the second half of Series 7. This would be the last Christmas special to have a coming soon trailer at the end until the return of Doctor Mysterio 2016. And return of the Doctor Mysterio is with the 12th Doctor Peter Capaldi. Another thing is that the episode features a first ever special effects for the series. A single camera shot following a character from the outside of the TARDIS, through the doors and into the console room. A similar shot had been accomplished for the 1993 documentary 30 Years in the TARDIS, and the fan production Devious, but this was the first time it had been done in a series proper, according to the behind-the-scenes featurette uploaded to the BBC's Doctor Who website after broadcast. Next thing is that this episode introduces a new title sequence, which includes the Doctor's face. Another thing is that the Doctor Who logo resembles a fresh snowfall in color and pattern. This is the final episode of Series 7 to display the unique titles, officially closing out Series 7 Part 1. Series 7 Part 2 drops this gimmick, starting with the premiere of The Bells of St. John. Another thing is that in an interview published in Doctor Who magazine 455, published before the broadcast, actor Dan Starkey revealed that a scene was filmed showing what happened to Vostra, Jenny and Strax 2 days after events of A Good Man Goes to War. Starkey says he wasn't sure if it was a previous online DVD extra or what. Ultimately, this ended up being a prequel, The Battle of Demons Run 2 days later. The same article recalls that in Doctor Who magazine 438, an email by Starkey was printed in which he accurately predicted the storyline that would see Strax living in London in the 19th century as Vostra's butler. According to the official guide to the 2013 series, Doctor Who magazine special edition, it was originally planned that this special would be the first Doctor Who episode to not have an opening credits sequence. Instead, opening with the title superimposed over a scene. In pre-production, it was decided to have one, and the newly redesigned credits sequence and theme arrangement were devised. Another thing is that this is the second Christmas special in a row with a character named Digby, after unseen Uncle Digby in The Doctor, The Widow, and The Wardrobe. That's also with the 11th Doctor Matt Smith. Another thing is that the end credits used the previous theme tune used from 2010 to 2012. New end credits would be introduced in The Bells of St. John. Next. Richard A. Grant previously appeared as the quite handsome Doctor in 1999 comic relief Red Nose Day segment, Curse of Faithful Death, as an alternative Ninth Doctor in Scream of the Shalka. Another thing is that whereas Stephen Moffat's previous Christmas specials were derived from classic stories, he didn't want this practice to become routine. And he decided that this special would simply be set in the iconic Christmas environment of a snowy Victorian London. Another thing is that the notion of the Doctor in seclusion was derived from an untitled idea proposed by former Douglas Adams in 1979, which had been dismissed by Graham Williams. Another thing is that the Victorian London setting was partly intended to introduce a different companion, 19th century governess named Beryl Montague. However, as had been the case with Katharina, there was concern that the series would be hamstrung by the presence of an ongoing protagonist whose knowledge and perspective predate the audience by more than 100 years. And Katharina as a first Doctor companion. Another thing is that the idea of Strax serving as a grumpy butler to Vastra was derived from comments that Starkey had made in the August 2011 issue of Doctor Who magazine. Another thing is that then Starkey was surprised to be asked to reprise his role of Strax, and he was seemingly killed in A Good Man Goes to War. Another thing is that Stephen Moffat stated that he wanted an epic quality to the Christmas special. Next thing is that at an early stage, the special was planned to form Block 4 of Season 7. However, it soon became clear that Stephen Moffat's progress in writing the script was too slow to accommodate the recording dates. Hyde was instead brought forward as Block 4, while a special would be paired with a Crimson Horror, another story featuring Vastra, Jenny, and Strax as Block 6. Next thing is that some consideration was given to omitting an on-screen title altogether, since it was thought that the title sequence might be held off until the end of the episode, signifying the Doctor's return to his old self. Next thing is that early drafts incorporated another ingredient to the mystery of the Snowmen, associating with them with the sightings of driverless handsome cabs. Next, there were already more flashbacks to Dr. Simon's early life. Another thing is that medical equipment used in a successful attempt to revive the dying Clara was implied to be responsible for Strax surviving the events of A Good Man Goes to War. Another thing is that Stephen Moffat wanted to show the Doctor's reaction to losing Amy and Rory. I think he's probably reached the point in his life where he's saying, friendship for me is just postponed bereavement. I want to be on my own for a while. Another thing is that Stephen Moffat was uncertain about the epilogue featuring the 2013 version of Clara, which was deleted and then reinstated more than once during the drafting process. And when it was finally decided to preserve this scene, false ending 2 was concocted to safeguard the surprise. It saw Vastra and Jenny comment on how the events of the story has reinvigorated the Doctor. Another thing is that Stephen Moffat compared the withdrawn Doctor scene at the onset of the episode to the first appearances of the first and 9 Doctors. Also, the episode saw redesigned TARDIS interior. The series was in the process of relocating from Upper Boat Studios to Rocklock, and there was no way to preserve the TARDIS set designed by Edward Thomas for season 5. Stephen Moffat had noticed that the TARDIS design was getting progressively whimsical and resembled more of a magical place rather than a machine. It was designed by series production designer Michael Pickwood, who stated that the new interior was also supposed to be darker and moodier and provide an easier access to the gallery of the ship when shooting. I think that Matt Smith described his costume as a bit Artful Dodger meets the Doctor. Stephen Moffat described the new outfit as aggression, as the Doctor was in a different phase of his life now, felt more grown up and father-like. Francesca and Digby Latimer were portrayed by real-life siblings Ellie and Joseph Darcy Alden. Filmed in Bristol was delayed when police were called to the Cabot Circus shopping centre, where they executed a controlled explosion of an unattended briefcase in response to concerns that it might contain a bomb. Another thing is that mattresses were hidden beneath billows of dry ice to give the impression that the Doctor and Clara were actually traversing the clouds. Another thing is that Bristol was chosen as filming location because it had Victorian era architecture. Another thing is that Michael Pigwood stated that his favorite set is this London street with the back of the pub, which he said was based on a 16th century building in Oxford. Another thing about locations is that the locations were blocked off and sprayed with fake snow. Another thing about TARDIS is that TARDIS on the cloud was achieved through a mix of fog on the studio floor, post-production, and special effects. Another thing is that Saul Stein explained that it was difficult to achieve the desired look for the snowman. First ones he likened to Zippy from Rainbow, which was too cute and an appearance, so the effects team created more menacing CGI faces. Next thing is about material, is that various materials discarded in editing. This included scenes involving a little boy, Max First, and his mother, Devon Black, who lived near the site where Simeon's laborers were working, as well as suggestions that the monsters were snowmen built the previous year, which has now reformed. The coming of the ice governess was originally foretold when a shape appeared on the surface of the Latimer's frozen pond, which resembled an upthrust hand. Next about Clara is that Clara's introduction to the TARDIS introduced two novel effects for the snow. The first was a single shot, a camera tracking from a few feet away from the TARDIS to its interior, with the implication of the TARDIS' trans-dimensional nature shown to the audience. In the following shot, the camera does a complete circle of the TARDIS console, an effect not seen since the early days of the show. So Matt Stein wanted to include the shot to further emphasize the bigger on the inside than the outside nature of the time machine. Another thing is that Tom Ward was drawn to his role because of the quality of the script, and also stated his young children were pleased that he appeared in the program. Next thing is that there were plans to give Vastra, Jenny, and Strax a spin-off, but Stephen Moffat's commitment to Sherlock made that impossible. So he incorporated them into this show. And last story note is that Richard A. Grant and Ian McKellen had previously been candidates for the 8th Doctor. So last thing, and that is about the continuity. And I repeat myself again in every live stream. In the universe, stories and episodes are to some extent related to each other, are referencing to each other, linked to each other, and from influence to each other. In my case, every time I rewatch stories, episodes, I discover new things. And of course, things are in interpretation. And so some things in continuity, and that is following things. First thing, Doctor is shown to be retired and living in the past. The 6th Doctor previously did this in the prose, the Spindle of Necessity. Next thing, how long the Doctor has been retired is not indicated. However, a dialogue between the Doctor and Vastra, and later the Doctor and Clara, suggests he has been living in his quote cloud for some time since the loss of Amy Pond and Roy Williams. That is in reference to the Angels Take Manhattan. Third thing is that Doctor initial idea to wipe Clara Oswin's memory, and his initial refusal to join the investigation nearly lends victory to the Great Intelligence. And the 8th Doctor's refusal to join the Lost Great Time War led to many dying, includes Cas Fermazzi. Thus, why is he allowed in his own death and the War Doctor's birth? That is a link to the Night of the Doctor. Is a mini. So actually, actually, it's a 5th anniversary special in prequel Minnesota. Next thing is that Clara mentions baking souffles, as Oswin did. And there's a link to the free story Asylum of the Daleks. The next thing is that the Seven Doctors' acquaintance, Jevon, also referred to the TARDIS as smaller outside than in. That is in audio story Valhalla. Next, Strax is confused about the difference between humans and males and females. So, a link to TV story A Good Man Goes to War. Prose, Devil in the Smoke, and another Sontaran, Lynx, was likewise confused when he met Sarah Jane Smith in the story The Time Warrior. Um, yeah, that's with Third Doctor John Pertwee. Next thing is that in reaction to the Doctor's impersonation of Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Simeon exclaims that, quote, Sherlock Holmes is a fictional character, end quote. Trix had made the same protest after the Eighth Doctor mentioned meeting Holmes, as in prose, the Gallifrey Chronicles. Next thing is that the Doctor shows the Great Intelligence a lunchbox with a map of the London Underground, circa 1967. The intelligence would later invade London through the underground. We see that in the TV story Web of Fear. That's with second Doctor Patrick Troughton and Jamie and Victoria, the companions. Another thing is that the Doctor uses Amy Pond's reading glasses. That is, yeah, linked to the TV story The Angels Take Manhattan. Next thing is that the Doctor reiterates that bow ties are cool. That's the first thing in TV story The 11th Hour, and further on. Next thing is that the Doctor previously dressed in a Holmesian attire while visiting London of 1889. That is, yeah, a TV story, The Tunnels of Weng Chiang, which is with the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker and Lila. Next thing is that Strax revival and his decision to join Vostra and Jenny is revealed in WC, the Battle of Demon's Run 2 days later. Next thing is that the Doctor is shown living in 1890s London, which would place him in violation of the banishment handed down by the still reigning Queen Victoria. That is according to TV story Tooth and Claw with the 10th Doctor. Uh, David Tennant and companion Rose. Next thing is that when Clara is with her friend in the graveyard, her friend is wearing the same jacket as one Clara Echo does when she sees the Seventh Doctor hanging from a mountain. That's in the TV story The Name of the Doctor. Another thing is that the Great Intelligence is deemed to already be aware of the Doctor when encountering his second incarnation in 1930s Tibet. That's a TV story Abominable Snowmen. Yeah. Doctor tells Simeon, you really should delete your history. A comment similar to one he made to Jeff Angelo in the story The 11th Hour. And the last thing in continuity is that when the clock strikes midnight, Jenny says, Midnight, Christmas Day, much like Jackie Tyler and Rosita before her. That is in the TV story The Christmas Invasion and the story The Next Doctor. And that, my friends, is all I have to say about this story, about this Christmas special. Some commercials. Ba-ba-ra-ba-bum. Sci-fi and fantasy fans and all sort of fans meet on this channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music and sport, and a special place on this channel for Doctor Who, our most beloved sci-fi series. Till the end of time. Actually, eternity. I will always love Doctor Who. This channel has multiple names. So, most of the time I call this random entertainment channel. And that is because I discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies, series, books, and music. Random, because we're broadcast on non-fixed times, actually many different times. You need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. Random, because we have no guests or different guests. It depends on what to join me in the live stream or panel. If you want to join me in the live stream, feel free to contact me via Discord or YouTube and we'll look what is possible. It's also possible to invite me for your channel for a live stream or panel. I'm available. I want to make friends and network and talk about yes, the things we enjoy actually. The Discord server is called the Random Entertainment Channel tag Doctor Who. On Discord, invite me very quickly because I bump the server regularly. So cheers, mate. Have lots of fun. This is your host, Enigmatic Joker. So I'm looking forward to meet ya. See ya. Bye bye. Have a nice day and a nice weekend. Nice week. Enjoy your day. Bye bye.